Guys, welcome in. This is a live stream version, so it's going to be archived. Every single thing that I've done up to this point has not been good enough. We have not been posting videos. You can tell it's kind of like a ghost town over there, over here, and it's got to change. You know, I'm taking my shots, I'm taking my opportunities, and at some point, you kind of fall off that trail a little bit, and we're trying to get right back on track. Right back on track. I thought growth, development of this channel, of the social media presence, was going in the right direction for a very long time, and complacency and lack of commitment is what makes it go in the other direction, and really just laziness, straight up laziness. So I am going to make this commitment. We'll see if I fail to meet this commitment. I will be doing reactions all day long on YouTube to all these games. Now, of course, with TikTok, I'm going to keep up with the reactions like I normally do. I'll probably have the reaction videos for games drop around halftime of the next games. That seems about right. I don't plan on doing it in live stream format like I'm doing this Walk That Line, because we kind of have to, but just so much stuff that was in my control the last couple of weeks on which I could have made videos but didn't. That needs to change. I want it to change because I want to build something here. So we're going to do that, and hopefully I can get myself out of this little funk. Here we go. Walk That Line is 48-46 on the year, but you got to keep the caveat that week one we went 7-18. Horrible. Other than that, you take that out, right? We are plus 13. We are doing pretty well. Last week was a little bit of a rougher week. It was the first losing week since week one with a 5-7 record, but we're hoping to bounce back here. Old Dominion minus 13.5 versus Marshall. This line did scare me for a little bit, but when you break it down, ultimately, I don't know if Marshall's going to have answers on the defensive side of the ball for Colton Joseph in this offense. I think that they're going to be able to score at will for the most part in this game, and I'd be shocked if Marshall hangs around in this game. Iowa State, Colorado, I'm taking the over 51.5. This game is between defense in Iowa State that's really been struggling against the run, and you got a Colorado team that I think is not going to be able to keep up in the back end of things against Rocco Becht, and I think that you're also going to see Iowa State enforce a little bit of balance, so they can't put resources towards the pass game. They can't play a too high shell the whole game and expect for Iowa State just to throw the ball around all day. I think that this is going to be a bad matchup for both defenses, and I think you're going to see a lot more points than maybe you traditionally see from either team. UL Monroe, minus 2.5 at Coastal Carolina. Play it safe, take the money line, but I like UL Monroe big in this one. They are a little bit undervalued in Vegas, in my opinion, and Coastal Carolina is terrible, but I expect for Aiden Armenta in this offense to get cooking a little bit, get the ball to Braylon McReynolds a little bit. I expect for UL Monroe to really have a big day on the offensive side of the ball. San Jose State, minus 1.5 at Wyoming. Wyoming's not very good. They had a snow game advantage against a dome team in UNLV and still lost by 14. They keep on, now UNLV keeps on finding ways to win, but this Wyoming team is really going to struggle against Walker Eagat in this offense that's been playing a lot better as of late. In San Jose State, when you watch them, especially last week against New Mexico, they seem like they're turning a corner. They seem like they're starting to become that Mountain West championship contending team that they could be. And the fact that this is also a little bit earlier in the season and not later, that also helps San Jose State. Keep an eye on the weather in this game before you play it, but I think San Jose State minus 1.5 is a lock. Oregon minus 7.5 versus Indiana. I don't expect this to be like an embarrassing blowout, but I expect for Oregon to win comfortably. This is a team with much more talent than Indiana. Indiana has been feeling nice about themselves, and that's all cool. And it's really fun to see Indiana up in the top 10. But this is simply a system play, a Kurt Signetti team against a top 10 team on the road. That's the play that we have here. And you saw what happened against Ohio State last year. You saw what happened against Notre Dame last year, both on the road. And even that Notre Dame game, they were able to make close late. Now, and the other part too, in this, when you get to this game, instead of just generalizing Indiana as a program, I am waiting for a Fernando Mendoza kind of bad game. I don't know what else to say about that. A game where Fernando Mendoza is not on point. He plays like crap. He did it at Cal a couple of times, and I think that he's due for one here at Indiana. So Oregon minus 7.5. I think the crowd is going to be too much for that offense. Georgia minus 3.5 at Auburn. See, I was back and forth on this game, and I feel like I was leaning towards Auburn in a lot of ways to win the game outright. But at the end of the day, when you look at this Georgia team, their offense has actually been pretty effective this year in bigger games, in conference play. And this defense is not going to be challenged down the field the way that Tennessee and Alabama presented that threat. And that is the reason why I think Georgia could run away with this. I'm really looking at this as like maybe a 7 to 10 point game. It's very, very similar to the Oklahoma game that Auburn played. I think Auburn will be competitive and they're going to be good enough to be competitive, but I think Georgia's going to find a way to cover this number. I definitely have a big feeling about that. Illinois team total under. This is the slide that gets funky. Illinois team total under 17.5 versus Ohio State. Are you kidding me? You giving me 17.5 against this Buckeye defense? Look, this Illinois offense has been impressive against Purdue and USC. That they're not Ohio State. USC's defense is garbage. They were able to actually run the football against USC, and they threw the ball around the yard against Purdue. They're not going to be able to do either of those things against Ohio State. This offense is going to look a whole lot more like they did against Indiana today than they did against USC and Purdue. The improvement, I think, is fool's gold. If you're giving me 17.5, I think Illinois is not scoring any more than 10 points in this game. Ohio State's going to dominate 14.5. You could play that. I didn't lock that up. Illinois team total under 17.5. I played Minnesota team total under 9.5 last week. Paid out pretty nicely. Alabama, Missouri over 51.5. Alabama cannot stop the run game, and they're going to be playing, I think, from behind a lot of the day. And if that's the case, then I think that Alabama's also going to air the ball out a little bit. You're going to see a big dose against a little bit of a banged up secondary for Missouri of Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams. And Ty Simpson has been on point. I don't think that's going to change today. I expect for him to have a good game. I am taking the over here. I think both teams are going to score a lot. I also think Texas Tech and Kansas are going to score a lot. I really like Kansas plus, at last check, 13.5. I think they keep it within 10. I'd be kind of shocked if Texas Tech pulls away. This is just such a weird matchup for Texas Tech to the point where I'm like, they're like plus 520 on the money line. Sprinkle Kansas money line. Weird stuff like this happens in the Big 12 all the time. Wisconsin team total under 16.5 against Iowa. Iowa, without Gronowski, is going to be leaning a little bit more on their defense today, and their defense is very similar to the Michigan defense that you saw last week. Not vintage in the secondary, as like they're not going to be able to make the big plays that they once had with guys like Riley Moss and Cooper DeJean, and Sebastian Castro too. Don't want to forget him, but they're still really good, and they play disciplined. They're just getting better. They seem like they're on the right track. I am taking the under 16.5. If Iowa State could only muster 16 points, I don't think Wisconsin's getting more than 16.5. Cincinnati minus 10.5 against UCF. I was talking to somebody, a friend of mine, who said that people are talking about this being a trap game for Cincinnati. I just don't see that being the case here. UCF, they've been really struggling on defense. I don't think they really have the talent over there. They just lost a heartbreaker against Kansas, and now they have to go all the way up to Cincinnati, who just played at home against Iowa State. I get the big win could make it a letdown spot. I would be concerned about it if it was in Orlando. It is not. I am taking Cincinnati minus 10.5. I think they should throttle UCF today. Charlotte and Army, I'm taking the under. I swear, if an Army under doesn't hit here, I'm never betting an Army under again. Not Army, Navy, and none of that. Army, Air Force, nope, not doing it. Charlotte has no offense right now. They are very banged up in key spots, and in particular, they are missing Connor Harrell, their starting quarterback. And meanwhile, Army, I'm not sure how good that offense is going to be able to run the football on Charlotte. I think Tim Albin's a good coach and get his team prepared a little bit, especially on a little bit of a long week, a couple extra days to prepare after playing a Friday night game against USF last week. Taking the under here. We'll see if that actually pans out. All right. Ooh. Here are some, I'm trying to get this set up. This is being so stupid. Okay. Here are some picks for some of the bigger games today. I already talked about Illinois and Ohio State. I think that Ohio State is going to be able to run away with this game personally. I mean, obviously, I'm a Buckeye fan, but I try to have a level head with the Buckeyes. I just don't see Illinois as a big threat to the Ohio State Buckeyes today. I am taking Missouri to beat Alabama. I think sprinkling them on the money line is definitely smart, right? Missouri, I've been back and forth because everything logically, and Joel Klatt talked about this, I saw this yesterday, and I've been thinking this all week, is everything logically tells you that Missouri should win this game. I mean, they have the matchup. They have the spot. Alabama, this is their third straight top 15 matchup. This is also a road game in which Kalen DeBoer has struggled. They also really struggle against the run, and you got to deal with a three-headed monster in the run game with Bo Pribula, Ahmad Hardy, and Jaden Roberts. So everything logically tells you Missouri should win this game. But your gut and you just seeing that Alabama logo, you are thinking, no, I think Alabama's, no, I'm not going to let it fool. What I know about these teams, Missouri should win. They have the matchup. And Joel Klatt saying that yesterday was a good affirmation to me, or me seeing that yesterday. I don't know if he said that yesterday, but regardless, that was affirmation to me to just go ahead and pick Missouri and trust your knowledge and what you know about these teams. So I'm taking Missouri to win this game in a high-scoring affair. Oklahoma, Texas. Guys, we are too panicked about Texas a little bit because they had two early losses. They can make a statement win later in the season against Georgia in a revenge spot. And I think that that's the only spot that they could possibly lose. This Texas team is just going to keep on getting better and better. Their offensive line will get better. They are talented kids who are not gelling at the moment. They're going to figure it out at some point. And they need to play better today. This is an Oklahoma team who got 10 sacks against Auburn. Granted, a lot of those were Jackson Arnold's fault, but this Texas offensive line allowed for 6 sacks against Florida last week. But the problem with me picking Oklahoma is they cannot run the ball. John Mateer just got his broken hand cut open a week and a half ago. I don't believe that this kid's going to be 100% today. I don't know why they're rushing him back. I don't think they should. I think it's irresponsible. We'll see if that I end up being right about that today. But regardless, I just don't trust it. The combination of Oklahoma not being able to run the ball. And look, I get it. Trey Wisner, CJ Baxter, you could talk about the injuries to those guys. And I'm going to be monitoring the status. I haven't actually bet on Texas yet, other than in some parlays. But with that being said, Texas, everything in me is telling me they're going to win this game. Oklahoma can't run the ball. They can't establish possessions. I think Arch Manning in that offense will move the ball more effectively. Both defenses are really good. I expect for Texas to win that game. Oregon and Indiana, I already kind of touched on it. I really think Oregon's going to pull away in that game and win by double digits. This is a tough environment too. Autzen Stadium is one of the toughest environments to play in. And then, let's see. Do we have another game? Oh, USC Michigan. That was the game I want to talk about. USC and Michigan. Final game to talk about here. USC can really throw the football around the yard. And the big reason why I'm picking USC, well, there's two reasons. I mean, number one, I'm just the West Coast travel. You've really only seen one team handle it well, and that's the number one team in America. And I think Sharon Moore coming in with all this arrogance, talking about how Michigan's going to fill up most of the stadium, and Lincoln Riley responding with just like, let him have that. This USC team's going to be fired up. They're not going to quit because they lost to Illinois a couple weeks ago. I think this defense can be better than what they displayed against Illinois a couple weeks ago. And even with that, Illinois allowed for Jade Mayava to kind of pop off a little bit. I think the big key for USC is they got to do what they've done most of the year that they didn't do as well against Illinois. It wasn't a big problem, but they turned the ball over against Illinois. They got to keep that ball protected. I want to see them win the turnover battle. They got to be disruptive on the young freshman quarterback, even if they allow him to get his, even if they allow for some yardage. Sorry, I saw something. And the other thing about this game, USC is going to do exactly what Dylan Raiola was able to do to keep Nebraska in that game. Throw it all over the secondary. That's all they need to do. Running the ball against this Michigan team for a lot of teams is going to be like running against a brick wall. But throwing the ball, they have matchups. They don't have as much NFL talent now. Rod Moore did look good coming back. And that might be key for Michigan. And if Michigan's going to win, I expect for Rod Moore to make his impact. I am picking USC, the home team, in this spot. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And I'll try, again, to give you guys recap videos throughout the day. I'll see you guys in the next video.